As we grow older, something shifts deep within us. We begin to crave peace more than approval, authenticity more than obligation. But what if the very people meant to support us are the ones quietly draining our joy? In this eye-opening video, we'll uncover 6 types of relatives you must distance yourself from after 60, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. From the manipulative guilt tripper to the perfect image pretender, each one carries a hidden cost to your mental and emotional well-being. Stay with us to learn how to protect your peace, reclaim your independence, and choose yourself without guilt. Part 1. The Drama Queen Relative. There is a certain kind of relative who carries a storm wherever they go. Not a storm of wind or water, but one of constant conflict, emotional outbursts, and manufactured crisis. We've all met them, or perhaps endured them, the drama queen. She doesn't just live through life's moments, she dramatizes them, reshapes them into scenes of distress, indignation, and high emotion, dragging everyone into her tempest. In youth, you might have tolerated it, even found it entertaining. Perhaps you excused it with kindness, telling yourself she was just expressive, just passionate. But aging has a way of sharpening our awareness. As we grow older, we begin to understand that time and energy are not infinite. They are sacred. And peace is not a luxury, it is a necessity. There comes a moment when you sit in your quiet living room, the sun filtering through the window, and realize that your nervous system can no longer afford these storms. You recognize that every outburst chips away at your health, that every dramatic episode pulls from a reservoir that no longer fills as easily. Science backs this truth: chronic stress, especially in later life, contributes to weakened immunity, elevated blood pressure, and even cognitive decline. And so you ask yourself, why am I still picking up the phone when I know she's only calling to stir things up? Why do I still attend those family gatherings where her complaints dominate the table and her exaggerations fill the air like smoke? Is this obligation, or is it a habit of self-sacrifice I've never questioned? It is not unkind to want peace. It is not selfish to choose stillness over chaos. You are not walking away from family. You are walking toward health, toward clarity, toward a version of yourself that no longer has to shrink to accommodate someone else's noise. The wisdom that age brings is not loud. It is quiet and clear-eyed. It sees patterns where before there was only confusion. It sees that some people thrive on reaction, and the best way to disarm them is silence, boundary, detachment. You don't need to change the drama queen. You couldn't even if you tried. What you can change is how close she stands to your center. You can step away, you can stop explaining. You can choose to protect your peace the way you'd protect a sleeping grandchild with quiet strength. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That is the gift of your age, not just knowledge, but the right to act on it. So let the drama unfold elsewhere. Let the storms rage beyond the walls of your calm home. You've earned the right to close the door, and in doing so, you don't lose love, you reclaim yourself. Part 2. The Money Leech Relative. They often come with a smile, a story, and a subtle sense of urgency. The money leech relative rarely shows up empty-handed. They carry just enough guilt, just enough sentimentality to blur the lines between need and manipulation. They say it's just this once. A medical bill, a lost job, an investment opportunity they know will work this time. And because your heart has always been soft, you give. But time reveals what emotion tries to hide. One request becomes 2, then 5, then 10. Each time cloaked in just enough desperation to make you question your resistance. "You know I'd do the same for you," they say. Family helps family. But you've started to notice something: the help always flows one way. And here you are in your 60s, 70s, maybe even your 80s. You've worked hard, saved diligently, planned for the quiet dignity of retirement. But instead of enjoying the fruits of your labor, you're watching your savings trickle away, one favor, one false promise, one act of misplaced generosity at a time. Retirement is not a second chance to parent your relatives. It's not a time to sponsor someone else's recklessness. You are not a bank. You are not a bailout fund. You are a person whose time, health, and peace deserve protection. Consider Robert a kind man with a gentle heart. He retired at 65 with dreams of travel, new hobbies, and mornings without alarm clocks. But his younger brother Kevin always needed something: a loan for rent, money for car repairs, funds to launch a doomed business. Robert gave again and again until there was nothing left to give. At 75, Robert found himself with dreams deferred and a bank account nearly empty. And Kevin. He'd already moved on to the next giver. There's a difference between helping and enabling. One nourishes, the other depletes. The Stoics would remind us you can't control what others demand, but you can control what you allow. Financial boundaries are not cruelty. They are clarity. When you say no, you are not turning your back on love. You are standing up for your own dignity. Offer guidance, not gold. Help them find work, not loopholes. Let them learn the lessons you had to learn about effort, responsibility, and the value of stability earned, not gifted. Because when someone depends on your wallet more than their own, well, you're not helping them live. You're helping them avoid life. You've spent a lifetime building something. Protect it. Say it plainly, say it kindly, but say it, I've worked hard for this piece. I'm not giving it away. And if they walk away when the money stops, let them go. Some ties are only as strong as what you provide. Real love, the kind that honors you, never comes with a price tag. Part 3, the always right relative. There is a unique fatigue that comes not from labor, but from conversation with the person who must always be right. You know them, the relative who turns every discussion into a correction, who never listens to understand, only to respond, who sees your lived experience not as wisdom, but as error to be fixed. They are rarely loud, but always certain. Certainty without humility is a dangerous thing. In your youth, perhaps you bit your tongue out of respect. You let their unsolicited advice wash over you. But as the years pass, you begin to feel the quiet erosion of your confidence. Every correction is a cut. Every dismissal, a seed of doubt. And soon you begin to question your instincts, not because you lack wisdom, but because someone's voice has been too loud for too long. There is nothing more tiring in old age than defending your decisions to someone who believes they know better about your health, your habits, even your friendships. They call it concern, but it often feels like control. They believe they are helping, but they forget you are not a novice in life. You are not in need of constant supervision. You are a person shaped by decades of learning, loss, courage, and consequence. Self-doubt at 20 can be a teacher. Self-doubt at 70 is a thief. So what can you do? You don't need to fight. You don't need to convince. That too is a form of surrender when you pour your energy into arguments that don't nourish either soul. Instead, you can draw a line. A quiet, firm, steady line. Let them speak, but stop absorbing their words like gospel. You are not required to validate their need to dominate every conversation. You can say, I hear you, but I trust my path. Or better yet, say nothing at all and carry on with grace. There is power in knowing that agreement is not required to live peacefully. There is freedom in understanding that you are the author of your own life, even when others try to take the pen. Maya Angelou once wrote, never make someone a priority when all you are to them is an option. If every conversation leaves you feeling smaller, unheard, or dismissed, you must ask yourself, what are you prioritizing? Their comfort or your sanity? At this age, peace is no longer a dream, it is a boundary. And sometimes that boundary is silence. Not cold, not cruel, just enough distance to protect what remains of your quiet joy, because you've got nothing left to prove and everything left to enjoy. Part 4, the guilt trip. Relative. Some people don't raise their voices, but they weigh on your spirit like lead. The guilt trip relative is a master of this quiet warfare. They don't shout, don't demand, not directly. Instead, they sigh just loud enough for you to hear. They say things like, after everything I've done for you, or I guess you're too busy these days. Their disappointment doesn't explode. It seeps, and you feel it in your chest, in the pit of your stomach. Even when you know you've done nothing wrong, something inside you twists. Because guilt, when wielded well, doesn't need logic to be effective. It just needs repetition. These relatives know exactly which strings to pull. They remind you of the favors they once did the time they drove you somewhere, the times they were there for you, but only to make you feel indebted, not cherished. They don't want your company. They want your compliance. And for a while, maybe you gave in. Maybe you canceled plans, gave up your Sunday mornings, agreed to things you didn't want to do just to keep the peace, just to stop that look in their eyes. But over time, you began to notice something dangerous. You weren't living for yourself anymore. You were living to avoid disappointing them. That is not love. That is bondage wrapped in a bow. You are not a bad person for saying no. You are not ungrateful for needing rest. Boundaries are not betrayals. In fact, setting them is the most honest thing you can do. Because the truth is, any love that demands guilt to survive isn't love, it's leverage. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." And that includes the guilt others try to place in your hands. You don't have to carry it. You can refuse to pick it up. You can say gently but clearly, "I care about you, but I can't do that." And then stop there. No explanation, no justification, no apology. If they truly love you, they'll adjust. If they don't, they'll push harder. Let them. That pressure is not your problem to solve. It's theirs to outgrow. You've spent too many years feeling like you had to earn rest. Now, in this chapter of life, rest is not a reward. It is your right. So if you find yourself saying yes when you want to say no, pause. Ask yourself, who are you living for? And at what cost? Guilt is a heavy cloak to wear in your golden years. Shed it. Walk lighter. Live freer. Because peace is not owed, it is chosen. And no one has the right to steal yours. If you find this content meaningful, give it a like. Share it with friends and support us by subscribing. It means the world. Part 5, the toxic caretaker. Relative. This one is the hardest to recognize because they arrive with kindness, with casseroles and clean towels. They say, "Let me help." And at first you're grateful. It feels good to be cared for. But slowly, subtly, the care becomes something else. They start deciding what you eat, who you see, which doctor you visit. They say things like, "You're too tired for that," or "You shouldn't be making these choices anymore." And before you realize it, you're no longer being cared for. You're being managed. This is the toxic caretaker, not cruel in appearance, but deeply controlling in behavior. And the worst part, they may not even know they're doing it. They believe they're helping. But help that removes your autonomy is not help. It is theft. There's a man named Samuel. He spent his whole life independent, raising kids, building a business, living with pride. But when he turned 75, his niece moved in to support him. She meant well, but her help became control. She answered his phone calls. She chose his clothes. She began speaking for him at doctor's visits. Eventually, Samuel stopped speaking at all, not because he couldn't, but because he no longer felt allowed. Independence doesn't vanish in one day. It fades quietly, tragically, when someone else's voice becomes louder than your own. But Samuel woke up one morning and realized he was still here, still capable, still sovereign. So he made a change. He hired a professional caregiver, someone who respected his boundaries, who offered help without overreach. And he sat down with his niece and told her gently but firmly, "I love you, but I need my life back." That conversation changed everything, not just for him, but for her. Because sometimes, even well-meaning, people need to be reminded love does not mean control. If you feel like your life is no longer yours, listen closely. That quiet discomfort in your chest. That's your dignity asking to be returned. You don't have to reject help. You just have to ensure that the help honors your choices. Accept assistance, but not authority. Guidance, but not governance. The Stoics taught that true strength is self-command. It's not about how much you can lift. It's about how firmly you can stand in your own truth, in your own decisions. Your life is still yours. Guard it, lead it, live it. Because your golden years should not feel like someone else's script. They should feel like your final masterpiece, written in your own hand. Part 6, the perfect image relative. They enter the room like a magazine cover, hair just right, smile rehearsed, stories polished. Their life according to them is flawless, the perfect marriage, the brilliant children, the home straight from a design catalog, vacations that look like travel commercials. You sit across from them and can't help but feel less. Like your real life, messy, quiet, imperfect, is somehow not enough. This is the perfect image relative. They don't criticize you directly. No, they're too refined for that. Instead, their stories are weapons dressed as compliments. You still haven't traveled to Europe. "Oh, we just got back from Tuscany, life-changing," or "Your grandson's in community college." "Ours just got accepted to Harvard." It's not what they say. It's how it makes you feel like you're always 2 steps behind, in a race you didn't know you were running. And here's the danger: comparison, especially in later life, is a thief. It steals joy. It robs peace. It turns what should be gratitude into inadequacy. You start wondering, should I have done more? Should I have worked harder, earned more, looked better, saved better? That's the trap. You take a beautiful lived-in life and measure it against someone else's highlight reel. But the truth is, perfection is often a performance. What you see on the outside rarely tells the full story. That perfect family they fight behind closed doors, that ideal retirement, it might be funded by debt or disappointment, and that relentless need to impress, it's often fueled by insecurity. Meanwhile, you who lived humbly, who raised children without applause, who built a life from scratch, begin to question your worth. That is not fair, and it is not true. Real fulfillment doesn't come from perfection, it comes from presence. From quiet mornings with coffee, from small joys like planting flowers, telling stories, watching your grandchildren laugh. It comes from knowing that you did your best with what you had, and that was enough. Denzel Washington once said, "Don't aspire to make a living. Aspire to make a difference." And you have. Not with headlines, but with hand-holding. Not with trophies, but with time given freely. That is legacy. That is beauty. So how do you protect yourself from the perfect image relative first stop playing the comparison game? You weren't put on this earth to live someone else's story. You were put here to live your own. Second, shift your gaze. Instead of measuring up, look within. What moments still make you smile? What lessons did you teach, not with words, but with love? That's where your real value lives. You don't need to impress anyone. You need only to be honest with yourself, with your path, with your peace. And if that relative's presence causes more pressure than joy, it's okay to step back, to change the subject, to smile without explaining. Let them have their performance. You have your peace. Because in the end, no one remembers the Instagram posts or the curated stories. They remember how you made them feel. And if you lived with kindness, humility, and quiet strength, then you've already won the only game that ever mattered. You don't need the world's applause. You need your own contentment. And that, dear one, is the only image worth holding on to. You've spent a lifetime giving, guiding, and growing. Now it's time to protect what matters most: your peace, your dignity, and your joy. The truth is, not all relationships deserve a seat in your golden years. Let this be the chapter where you choose yourself without apology. If this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And for more heartfelt stories, timeless wisdom, and empowering lessons for life after 60, be sure to subscribe to Wisdom of Elderly. Your journey deserves support, and we're here to walk it with you.